Have you ever noticed that the biggest breakthroughs in history didn't necessarily begin with better answers? They began with better questions. For centuries, people believed that the sun revolved around the earth. And it's not because they were unintelligent, but because everyone started with the same assumption. When you start when your starting assumption is wrong or even incomplete, you can spend generations finding better answers to the wrong question. I wonder, could we have done something very similar with our health? Not because doctors don't care, and it's not because scientists aren't trying, but because sometimes we become so focused on treating the symptoms that we stop asking why those symptoms exist in the first place. And maybe, just maybe, we've done the same thing with fasting. Today, millions of people think that fasting is primarily about losing weight. Some think it's just a trendy idea or diet, and others think it's dangerous. Some think it's personal punishment, and some think it's only for people that are trying to shrink their waistline. But what if we've been asking the wrong question all along? Instead of asking, how much weight will I lose? What if we asked, why would the human body be designed to benefit from periods without food in the first place? That question changes so much because if fasting is more than a weight loss strategy, then maybe your body is more intelligent than you've ever imagined. One of the most beautiful and meaningful lessons that I've experienced over the years is this: your body is always communicating every single day. The problem is not that your body has gone silent. The problem is that most of us were never taught its language. Your body does not speak English or whatever your preferred first language is. It doesn't send you emails. It's not going to text. It doesn't leave voicemails. It communicates through energy, through sleep, through hunger, through cravings, through hormones, through digestion, through mood, inflammation, recovery, through changes that many of us have been taught to ignore until they become impossible to ignore. Imagine someone you love sending you message after message after message. They aren't trying to annoy you, they're trying to reach you. Now imagine that you never opened the message. Eventually, the messages become more urgent. And it's not because they hate you, it's because they care. I sometimes wonder if our bodies are doing the same thing. Your body is always sending you messages. The real question is, are you leaving those messages on red? I didn't always think about it like this. Like most people, I believed health was mostly about eating the right foods, avoiding the wrong ones, and exercising enough. And then just kind of hoping that everything else would work itself out. Now, those things do matter. They really do. But over time, I began noticing something that kept appearing throughout biology. The human body is remarkably adaptive. When something changes, your body responds. When you're injured, it begins repairing. And when you exercise, it remodels you. When you sleep, it restores. When you become dehydrated, it conserves water. When you experience stress, hormones shift to help you respond. Again and again, the body isn't passive, it's actively adapting. That doesn't mean every adaptation is perfect. And it certainly doesn't mean every response is beneficial in the long term, but it does suggest something important. Many of the things we experience aren't random, they're responses. So maybe one of the most helpful questions that we can ask isn't, how do I silence this symptom? I just don't want to feel this. No, maybe it's, what is my body trying to tell me? Think about hunger for a moment. Most of us have been taught that hunger is an emergency. If we are hungry, we should eat immediately. Eh, But is hunger always an emergency? Or could hunger sometimes be information? Your stomach doesn't necessarily know what time it is. It doesn't know it's noon because the clock says noon. It responds to hormones, habits, routines, and your body's current state. Researchers have learned that hunger often comes in waves. Hormones like ghrelin tend to rise around the time we're accustomed to eating, and then they fall again even if we don't eat. That doesn't mean everyone should ignore hunger, but it does remind us that hunger is influenced by biology, habit, and context, not just an empty stomach. What if those symptoms or those moments aren't simply obstacles to overcome, but opportunities to learn how your body works? Now, one of the reasons I love studying human biology is because the body is constantly balancing two priorities: survive today and health tomorrow. If you're stranded in the wilderness without food, your body doesn't simply give up after a few hours. It begins adapting. Think about that for a moment. For nearly all of human history, food wasn't available every few hours. There were seasons of abundance, there were seasons of scarcity. Some days would end with a feast, and other days ended with very little. Our ancestors didn't carry coolers. They didn't stop at a drive-through. They couldn't order groceries from an app. The human body developed in a world where eating and fasting naturally alternated. That doesn't automatically mean that every ancient practice is healthy today, but it does raise an important question. Why would our bodies possess so many carefully orchestrated responses to temporary food scarcity if fasting were completely unnatural? When researchers study fasting today, they observe changes in hormones, metabolism, fuel use, and cellular maintenance that suggest the body doesn't simply shut down. Instead, it shifts its priorities in ways that can be beneficial under the right circumstances. Now, exactly how those changes affect a person depends on a lot of different factors, including like age, medications, medical conditions, your body composition, and the length of the fast. Notice something interesting though. The question isn't, can humans survive without food for a while? We already know they can. The better question is, what is the body trying to accomplish during that time? That question, it can change the way we think about fasting because fasting isn't simply the absence of eating, it's the presence of adaptation. So let's think about another example. Imagine you've owned a house for over 20 years, and every single day you invite guests over for breakfast, lunch, dinner, snacks, late night snacks. The front door never stops opening. Deliveries just keep arriving, and then accidentally, boxes pile up. The dishwasher is always running. Laundry never ends because you barely have enough time to keep up with today's mess before tomorrow begins. Now, imagine everyone leaves just for a little while. Suddenly, what are you going to do? You're going to vacuum, you organize, you fix that squeaky cabinet, you replace the burnt out light bulb you've been meaning to get to. That actually makes me think I have one in my kitchen, right? I need to get another light bulb. Ugh. But you catch up on the maintenance that you've been postponing. Your house didn't become healthier because people are bad. No, your house became healthier because it finally had time to focus on something besides just receiving more. I sometimes wonder if we've underestimated how important those quiet moments are for the human body. When we're constantly digesting, absorbing, storing, and processing food, the digestive system is busy, just doing exactly what it's designed to do. Digestion is not a problem, it's essential. But digestion also requires energy and coordination. When food isn't continually arriving, the body has an opportunity to shift some of its priorities. Researchers are still learning exactly how these shifts interact with long term health, but studies have documented changes involving insulin levels, fat metabolism, cellular stress responses, and processes like autophagy, which is a cellular recycling system that helps to break down and reuse damaged components. Much of the detailed mechanistic research comes from laboratory and animal studies, while human research does continue to grow. Notice I didn't say that fasting is magic. It isn't. It's biology. And one of the biggest misunderstandings that I see is people thinking that fasting is about depriving the body. But what if? It's actually about creating space for digestion to pause, space for hormones to rest, space for your metabolism to demonstrate its flexibility, space to notice habits you never realized were driving your day. It gives you space to discover whether you're eating because your body needs nourishment or just because you're bored, lonely, stressed, celebrating, distracted, conditioned. Food nourishes us. Food also comforts us. Sometimes it does both. There's nothing shameful about that. But if food becomes the answer to every emotion, we lose the opportunity to learn what those emotions were trying to teach us. And this is where fasting reaches far beyond nutrition, because fasting doesn't just reveal what's happening in your stomach. No. It often reveals what's happening in your heart, your mind, your routines, even your relationships. Many people discover that what they thought was hunger was actually stress or fatigue or habit or simply the clock. Again, your body is talking. The question is, are we listening? I think one of the greatest gifts fasting has given me isn't just what's happened physically. It's that it slowed life down enough for me to notice when I'm actually hungry, notice when I'm simply tired, notice how much better I think after a good night's sleep compared to trying to solve everything with another snack. Notice that movement changes my energy. Notice that sunlight changes my mood. Notice that gratitude changes the way I experience the day. Health isn't one habit, it's a conversation. And fasting has a remarkable way of making that conversation easier to hear. One of the questions I hear all the time is, if fasting is so healthy, why does it feel so difficult? And I think that's one of the most honest questions that we can ask. Because if something is beneficial, shouldn't it feel easy? Not necessarily. Exercise can be difficult. Learning a new language can be difficult. Recovering from surgery can be difficult. Breaking a habit can be difficult. Difficult doesn't automatically mean something is harmful, but it also doesn't automatically mean something is healthy. The better question is, why does it feel difficult? The answer is fascinating. Your body loves efficiency. If you've eaten every 3 or 4 hours for years, your metabolism becomes incredibly efficient at expecting food on that schedule. So when food doesn't arrive, your body notices. It's not because something is wrong, but because something is different. Imagine taking the same route to work every single day for 10 years. One morning there's construction and the destination hasn't changed, but your brain immediately notices the change because habits create expectations. Our metabolism works in remarkably similar ways. When we regularly eat, the body becomes prepared to process incoming energy. And when we don't, it begins making adjustments. Those adjustments can feel uncomfortable at first. And this is not because your body is failing or trying to hurt you. It's because it's adapting. One of those adaptations is something researchers call metabolic flexibility. Metabolic flexibility simply means that your body's ability to efficiently switch between using glucose and stored fat as fuel. Think of it like owning a hybrid vehicle. If one fuel source becomes temporarily unavailable, the vehicle simply transitions to another. A metabolically flexible body can do something similar. Now, many people today have become very good at burning incoming carbohydrates, but they've had very little opportunity to practice using the energy that they've already stored. It's almost like having a fully stocked pantry while constantly ordering takeout. The food in the pantry isn't the problem. You simply never give yourself the opportunity to use it. Now, this isn't about blaming anyone. It's about recognizing the environment that we've inherited. Most of us have grown up surrounded by constant food availability. Advertisements, convenience stores, drive-throughs, office snacks, celebrations that are centered around food, late night television encouraging another dessert. You gotta have one more bowl of ice cream, maybe. Our biology evolved in one environment. We now live in another. My friends, that doesn't make modern life bad. It simply means we have to become more intentional. I also want to talk about something that isn't discussed enough: stress. Because fasting, it is a form of stress. Now, before that worries you, remember this: not all stress is harmful. Scientists use the word hormesis to describe the fascinating phenomenon where small, manageable doses of stress can help the body become stronger and more resilient over time. Exercise is hormesis. Cold exposure can be hormesis. Strength training is hormesis. Learning difficult skills challenges the brain in beneficial ways. Temporary fasting may act similarly for a lot of adults. The important word here, though, is manageable. More isn't always better. Longer isn't always better. Harder isn't always better. Your goal isn't to prove how much suffering you can tolerate. Your goal is to create an environment where your body can adapt safely. And that means listening. If you become lightheaded, listen. If you have diabetes, listen. If you're underweight or you have a history of an eating disorder, my friend, you need to listen to your body. Or you're taking medications that affect blood sugar, fasting deserves an individualized conversation with your healthcare professional if these things apply to you. Wisdom is never one size fits all. One of my favorite ways to think about health is this: imagine your body is the world's most advanced laboratory, and every single day it's collecting information: sleep, movement, nutrition, stress, relationships, sunlight, hydration, thought patterns. Every choice becomes another data point. Your body doesn't judge those choices, it simply responds. And that's why small, consistent habits matter so much. It's not because one healthy meal changes your life, and it's not because one fast transforms your future. It it's because your body is constantly learning from repeated experiences. Researchers sometimes refer to this as adaptation. I simply want to call it hope because it means your body is never trapped by yesterday. It's always responding to what you repeatedly do right now, today. So here's something practical I want you to try this week. Not next month, not someday, not yesterday, this week. Choose one day, just one, and finish dinner a little earlier than usual. Then allow your body approximately 12 hours before breakfast the next morning. If you normally finish eating at 8 o'clock, try eating dinner around 7 and then have breakfast around 7 the next morning. That's it. Nothing extreme, no suffering, no competition, no stopwatch. During those 12 hours, I want you to pay attention. How did you sleep? Did you wake up hungry? Did your energy change? What thoughts came into your mind? Did you automatically reach for food because your body asked or because the clock did? I want you to write down what you notice, not to judge yourself, to become curious. And then, if that feels comfortable and appropriate for you, consider gradually extending that overnight fasting window to 13 or 14 hours on another day. Always paying attention to how your body responds. Small, sustainable changes are more likely to become lifelong habits than dramatic changes that you can't maintain. Because remember, the goal of this episode isn't to convince you to fast longer. It's to help you start listening better. Your body has been teaching you your entire life. This week, just answer one message. Maybe that's the biggest lesson I've learned through all of this. Health isn't something we force. It's something that we cultivate. Think about a garden. You can't stand over a tomato plant and yell at it to grow faster. You can't pull on the leaves and expect stronger roots. Growth happens because the environment supports it. There was enough sunlight and enough water. There was healthy soil, a good amount of time and consistency. The human body is remarkably similar. We often spend so much energy trying to force outcomes. I'm going to lose weight. I'm going to lower my blood sugar. I'm going to reduce inflammation. I'm going to sleep better. I'm going to have more energy. I will. I am. I. And those are worthwhile goals, but they are often the result of something deeper. When it actually happens, a healthier internal environment is being cultivated. And that's one of the reasons I believe fasting deserves a place in the conversation. It's not because it's a miracle, and it's not because it's the answer to every health challenge, but because for many people, it creates an opportunity to improve that internal environment. It gives the body periods of rhythm, periods of recovery, periods where it isn't constantly processing another meal. And that rhythm matters so much. I also think we've unintentionally created a culture that fears being hungry. The moment we feel the first hint of hunger, we panic, we think something's wrong, and we reach for whatever is closest and quickest. But hunger is not always an emergency. Sometimes it's simply your body beginning a conversation. Now, let me be very clear. If you're experiencing persistent hunger because you're under eating, that's different. If you're pregnant or growing, like you're a teenager, or you're in some type of an accelerated fitness program, or recovering from illness, or managing certain medical conditions, your nutritional needs may be very different. This is not about ignoring your body's legitimate needs. It's about learning the difference between biological need and conditioned response. Those two things are not always the same. Learning that difference takes practice and patience. When I first became interested in fasting, I thought the greatest transformation would happen inside my body. But what surprised me was how much happened inside my mind. I became more intentional, more patient, more aware. I realized how often I ate without ever asking myself why. Not because I was hungry, but because I was busy or stressed or celebrating or avoiding something difficult. Food had quietly become an answer to questions I wasn't even asking. Fasting gently exposed that, not with shame, but with awareness. Awareness is powerful because you cannot change what you never notice. And once you notice, you have a choice. I think that's why I keep coming back to that phrase. Your body is always sending you messages. The question is this again, are you leaving them unread? Maybe fatigue isn't always just something to fight. Maybe it's asking for rest. Maybe constant cravings are inviting you to look at your sleep, your stress, or whether your meals are truly nourishing. Maybe lower energy isn't always a sign that you need another source of caffeine. Maybe your body is asking for movement or hydration or protein or simply, I know we hate this one, an earlier bedtime? Ugh, I know it's hard. I get it. I'm there too. I don't want to go to bed at 9 o'clock. I don't even really want to go to bed at 10 o'clock often. I want to stay up because it's the one time of day that I'm just at home and with my husband, and we're just chilling and relaxing and being able to enjoy what we've worked so hard for all day. But the message might be from your body, you simply need, I'll say it again, an earlier bedtime. The body has many languages. We just weren't taught how to translate them. Imagine if we approached health with curiosity instead of criticism. Instead of saying, my body is, oh, I can't stand it. It's just, I can't stand it. I don't know what it's doing to me. It's betraying me. Ugh, no, 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 no. Let's stop doing that. Instead of saying that, let's ask, what is my body trying to tell me today? Instead of saying, I just don't have any willpower, let's ask, what habit have I practiced so consistently that it now feels automatic, maybe on accident? Instead of saying I failed again, we ask, what can I learn from what happened? Those questions don't change your mindset, they change your direction because better questions often lead to better choices, and better choices repeated over time change lives. I also want to say something to those of you who have tried fasting before and felt discouraged. Maybe you made it one day, maybe one week, maybe a month. I don't know. Maybe you quit after a few hours. Can I encourage you? That doesn't make you a failure. It makes you human. Health is rarely built in one dramatic moment. It's built in thousands of ordinary decisions. One earlier bedtime, one walk after dinner, one balanced meal, one extra glass of water, one evening where you stop eating a little bit earlier than yesterday, and one morning where you realize, I'm actually starting to feel pretty good. Those small moments compound. We consistently find that sustainable habits, not perfection, are associated with better long term health outcomes. Consistency almost always beats intensity when the goal is lifelong change. So don't underestimate what one intentional decision can become after a year or 5 years or 10. If you've watched this far, I hope that you realize something. This episode was never really about fasting. Fasting was simply the doorway. The deeper conversation has always been about learning to trust that your body is not random. It is dynamic, adaptive, remarkably intelligent, not perfect, not invincible, but constantly working to maintain balance in ways that we're still discovering through science. And when we begin partnering with that design instead of constantly fighting against it, something can change. Not overnight, not magically, but gradually. One decision at a time, one meal at a time, one walk, one night of better sleep, one good fast, one choice to pay attention instead of rushing past another signal. So here's my invitation, not a challenge, an invitation. For the next 7 days, become a student of your own body. Keep a small notebook or use the notes app on your phone. I don't care which. Before you have your first meal each day, ask yourself 4 simple questions. Am I physically hungry or is it just a habit? That's one. How did I sleep last night? That's two. What is my energy level from 1 to 10, like in the afternoon, 1 p.m. to 10? That's question three. And what is one thing my body might be trying to tell me today? That's question four. And then write one sentence for each one. That's all. That's it. One sentence response. That's all I'm asking. And at the end of the week, look back over your notes. You may be surprised by the patterns that you discover because real transformation rarely begins with finding the perfect diet. It begins the moment that you stop ignoring the messages that you've already been receiving all along. Your body has been speaking to you every single day of your life. My hope is that after today, you won't leave those messages on red anymore. I'll see you in the next episode of the Fasting Project. But before we finish today, there's another question I want to leave you with because I think it might be the most important question of the entire episode. If your body could sit across the table from you and speak English verbally, what do you think it would say? Would it thank you for the way you've been caring for it? Would it ask for more sleep? Would it ask you to slow down? Would it ask you to stop living on stress hormones? Would it ask for real food instead of whatever is quickest or most convenient? Would it ask for movement, for sunlight, for quiet, for forgiveness? Your body has been trying. My friend, I promise you it has. Would it simply say to you, I've been trying to get your attention? One of the greatest misconceptions in modern health is that change has to be dramatic to be meaningful, and it doesn't. Look at nature. A river doesn't carve a canyon in one afternoon. It does it one drop at a time. Trees don't become forests overnight. One season follows another. The sunrise doesn't explode into the sky. It arrives gradually. Real health works much the same way. It, it's built in rhythms, rhythms of nourishment, rhythms of movement, rhythms of work and rest, rhythms of fasting and feasting. Maybe that's one of the reasons so many people struggle today. We've lost the rhythm. We've become surrounded by abundance, but starved for recovery. We've become constantly connected, but rarely still enough to actually see and hear and feel one another. Constantly consuming, but rarely reflecting. Constantly eating, but rarely just allowing the body simply time just to be. What fascinates me is that researchers are continuing to discover how interconnected the human body really is. Sleep influences appetite. Stress influences blood sugar. Muscle influences metabolism. The gut communicates with the brain. Physical activity changes inflammatory signaling. Our daily habits don't operate in isolated compartments. They're part of an incredibly complex conversation. And that's why chasing a single supplement or one magic food or one miracle protocol it almost always leads to disappointment. Health isn't built by one heroic decision. It's built by hundreds of ordinary ones that are working together. And fasting can become one meaningful part of that bigger picture. Not the whole picture, but one very important piece of it. Imagine trying to listen to someone in a crowded room where everyone is shouting, music is blaring, people are talking over one another, and phones are ringing. You'd probably miss what they're trying to say to you. Our lives can become just as noisy. Notifications, emails, schedules, stress, constant stimulation, eating, distraction, and sometimes I wonder if fasting does more than quiet digestion. Maybe for many people, it also quiets enough of life that they finally begin hearing themselves again. And for those of us who believe that God created our bodies with purpose, maybe those quieter moments can also make room to hear Him more clearly. Not because fasting earns God's love, it doesn't, but because removing distractions often help us recognize what has already been there all along. Here's something I'd love for you to think about. What if success isn't measured by how long you fast, but by how well you listen? Because someone can complete a 36-hour fast do it perfectly, and then immediately return to the same habit that made them feel unhealthy. Another person might simply stop eating 3 hours before bedtime, improve their sleep, become more intentional with breakfast, and begin walking after dinner, reduce ultra processed foods, and completely change the trajectory of their health over the next few years. Which one succeeded? I would argue, of course, that it's the one whose life actually changed. That's the goal. Not impressive fasting windows, not social media badges. Transformation, sustainable, repeatable, lifelong transformation. If you've made it this far into today's episode, I want to ask you for something. Not because it helps the algorithm, because it helps build a community of people who are choosing to think differently about health. If the comments below answer this question with just a few words, I want you to tell me, what message do you think your body has been trying to send you lately? Tell me. Let's look in the comments. Someone has to write them. I'll respond to them. Let's encourage each other. Let's share. What message has my body been telling me? What message has your body been telling you? Maybe it's, I need more sleep. Maybe it's, I need less stress. Maybe it's, I need to move. I need to stop eating so late. I need to spend more time outside. I don't know what yours is. Maybe you'll simply write, I'm finally ready to listen to my body. I'm going to read your comments, and they will. They'll help shape future episodes because the chances are, if you're asking the questions, thousands of other people are asking it too. If this conversation challenged the way you've been thinking about fasting or health, share it with someone you care about. Not just because I want the videos to go viral. That'd be great if they did. I'd love it. We can reach and help more people. But because you love someone that may be having the same questions, and someone you love may be one question away from making a healthier decision. If you're new here, I'd love for you to join us. Every episode of the Fasting Project is about more than just fasting. It's about rediscovering the rhythms that helped us become healthier physically, mentally, emotionally, and spiritually. We're not going to chase perfection. We're going to keep learning together. One question, one habit, one conversation, one day at a time. Because your future health is not determined by one decision. It's shaped by the decisions that you repeat. So tomorrow morning, before you reach for breakfast, before you reach for your phone, before the day begins pulling you in every direction, please pause. Take one slow breath and ask yourself, what is my body trying to tell me today? And then listen. You might discover that the greatest health coach you've ever had has been with you all along. I wish it was me, but it's not. It's the person living inside of you, partnering with you to discover your best self. I'll see you next time on the Fasting Project. And until then, please take care of your body. Listen to its wisdom. Respect its design. Never stop learning. And my friend, please never forget, you are worth it. I'll see you soon.